Hello, everyone, and welcome to the daily Senior Safety Advice podcast. This is the show dedicated to helping older adults and the people who love them live more safely, more comfortably, and with more confidence every single day. I'm Mr. Kane, a retired occupational therapist, certified aging in place specialist, and a dementia care specialist. And I am so glad that you're here with me today. Excuse me, because today's episode is a little different. And honestly, I think it might be the one that some of you have needed for a long time. Before we start, please head on over to seniorsafetyadvice.com for more resources and support. Subscribe, of course, to this podcast or YouTube channel, wherever it is that you're listening to us from. And if today's message speaks to your heart, please share it with another caregiver in your life. They may need to hear it even more than you do. All right, today I want to speak directly to the family caregivers. These are family members who are doing everything they can and still going to bed at night wondering if it's enough. If you're enough, well, this one is for you. I mean, I know I wish I had that support when I was caring for my mother. I want to start by asking you something, and I want you to really sit with it for a moment. When did you last give yourself credit for what you're doing? Not for what you didn't get to do, because most of us think about the negative instead of the positive. Not for the things that you forgot to do, or the appointment you had to reschedule, or the day that you ran out of patience. When did you last stop and say, hey, I showed up today? Hey, I did something hard today. I kept going when I really, really wanted to stop, or maybe even needed to stop. My guess, it's probably been a while. Maybe a very long while. I hope not. Because here's what I know about caregivers. The ones who worry most about doing enough are almost always the ones who are doing the most. The ones who lie awake going over everything they could have done better are the ones who care so deeply that it aches. The guilt and the love, they often travel together, that's for sure. In all my years working with older adults and their families, I never once met a caregiver who was truly doing nothing. What I did meet over and over were caregivers who were doing an enormous amount and who had somehow convinced themselves that it wasn't enough. That gap between reality and self perception is one of the most painful parts of caregiving. Now, I do want to say at this point in time that there are families, there are situations, relationships where it's very difficult for the family caregiver or givers to provide the care that they want to or need to for an aging adult who may be suffering from dementia and has become very difficult to manage. Or it could be someone who has always had a very difficult personality or a very difficult relationship with that aging parent or loved one. I mean, those are real live situations. We shouldn't hide our heads in the sand pretending that they're not. So I do want to say that in that vein of thought, I have begun a new podcast with a counselor, Lori Newcomb, and the name of the podcast is called Love, Limits, and Aging Parents. And it's about information for caregivers, especially family caregivers, who are dealing in these very difficult situations when it's not necessarily a giving relationship, from the aging parent. Because oftentimes um, the um, the guilt and the, lack of, n awareness not awareness, but oftentimes, the caregiver doesn't feel that they're doing enough because they're being told they're not doing enough, by the aging parent that they're caring for, and So when it comes from that source, it's very difficult to overcome. So if you're in that situation, please take a look at Love, Limits, and Aging Parents. It's a brand new podcast, and we put it out every single week. And I hope that it can help you through any difficult situations that you're going through. All right, let's get back to this topic here. So let's talk about where that feeling of not being good enough comes from, because it doesn't come from nowhere, believe me. Okay, so some of it comes from the sheer size of what caregiving asks of us. You know, it asks us to be a nurse and a cook and a driver and a scheduler and an advocate and a companion and a financial manager, and sometimes all in the same afternoon. No one person is trained for all of that. No one person is good at all of that. And when we inevitably fall short in one area, it's easy to let that overshadow everything else that we're holding together. Some of it comes from comparison. We see something online, you know, a family that seems to be doing it all so gracefully. You know what I'm talking about, those Hallmark movies. Or we hear about what someone else's sibling is doing for their parent. And suddenly, what we're doing doesn't look like enough, even if it objectively is. Because please remember, every situation is different. And some of it, a lot of it, honestly, comes from grief, because caregiving is grief. It's watching someone you love change. It's watching someone you love in the process of dying. It's mourning the relationship you had before, and it's mourning the person that you have been with for your entire life. It's holding space for a future that looks different than you imagined. And grief is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to people who haven't felt it. Caregiver grief is real, and it often goes unnamed. Professionals call it ambiguous loss, the experience of losing someone who is still present. There's no funeral, there's no clear moment of mourning. There is just a slow, ongoing shift that you are asked to help adjusting to, often without acknowledgement from the people around you, and almost always without an end time. I mean, you have no idea how long it will last. A week, a month, a year, 5 years. It's a difficult, to say the least, situation. Now, listen, I want to say something clearly because it needs to be said and it often isn't. You are not failing because you feel overwhelmed. You are overwhelmed because you are doing something genuinely hard. Those are two very different things. One is a judgment, and the other is just the truth. Caregiving, family caregiving, especially long term caregiving for an aging parent, is one of the most demanding things that a human being can take on. It is physically tiring. It is emotionally exhausting. It can be financially stressful. It can strain marriages and friendships and your relationship with your own body. And it asks all of this of you while also asking you to show up with patience and warmth and love for someone who may not always be able to recognize or appreciate what you're giving. The fact that it's hard does not mean you're doing it wrong. It means that it's hard. When the voice in your head starts listing everything you didn't do today, try countering it with one specific thing you did do. More if you can add to the list. Not a generic, I tried my best. No. Something real. Something like I made sure mom had a hot meal. I called to check on dad even when I was exhausted and just wanted to take a nap. Specifics cut through the noise that vague self criticism creates. If you want, write it down. Make a journal every single night, every single day throughout the day of the good things. If you want, have a sheet of paper with the left and the right. You know what you didn't do on the left and what you did do on the right. And I can almost guarantee that what you did do is always going to outrun the list of what you didn't do. I hope I said that right. Let me share something that I observed again and again over the course of my career as an occupational therapist working in geriatrics. The family caregivers who tended to struggle the most, not with caregiving itself, but with the emotional weight of it, were often the ones who had made an unconscious decision that their own needs didn't count anymore, that the moment they became a caregiver, they stepped off the list. And I understand why that happens. Believe me, I've been there. When someone you love needs so much, it can feel selfish to take up any space for yourself. It can feel like every minute you spend on your own rest or your own joy is a minute stolen from them. But believe me, that's the wrong thing to do. Here's what I want you to hear. Depletion is not devotion. Running yourself into the ground doesn't make you a better caregiver. It makes you a more exhausted one, and exhausted caregivers make more mistakes. They feel more resentment and have less of themselves to give, which is the opposite of what everyone in the situation needs. Taking care of yourself is not a betrayal of the person you're caring for. It is part of the care. You're not just caring for them, you have to continue caring for yourself. I used to tell the families that I worked with, because in geriatrics, you don't just work with, well, in all therapies, you don't just work with the patient, you also work with their family. I don't care if it's geriatrics, pediatrics, whatever. All right. I used to tell the families that you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I know that that's an old phrase. Everyone's heard it a million times, but it's so true. It sounds easy, it sounds simple, but I watched people resist it over and over as if accepting that truth meant that they were being selfish. The caregivers who figured out how to take rest, how to accept help, and how to protect some part of themselves, they lasted longer. They were more present, and their loved ones were genuinely better off for it. And let me say this, those caregivers, they also were able to maintain and sustain their relationships, not only with their significant others, but with their own families and friends. So what does that actually look like in practice? Because I know that, the phrase take care of yourself can feel like the least useful advice in the world when you're in the middle of it. It doesn't have to be big. It really doesn't. It might be 15 minutes in the morning before anyone else is awake with a cup of coffee and no responsibilities. It might be a walk around the block. It might be calling a friend you've been avoiding because you felt too tired to talk. And it might even be letting someone bring you dinner without feeling like you have to have the house tidy first. Believe me, give that up. Small things done consistently matter. They are not nothing. They are the difference between a caregiver who is slowly collapsing and one who is finding just enough to keep going. And if the needs around you have grown beyond what one person can manage alone, please hear this. That is not a failure either. That is just reality. Reaching out for help, whether that's from another family member, a professional caregiver, a social worker, or a respite care program, is one of the most responsible things that you can do for your loved one and for yourself. Okay, respite care. I really want to emphasize respite care because it's something that I've seen so many family caregivers, they don't take advantage of it. Respite care is temporary relief for family caregivers. It's available through many community organizations, adult day programs, and in home care agencies. If you haven't looked into what's available in your area, that is a worthy next step. Even a few hours a week can change how sustainable the whole situation feels. There's one more thing I want to say before we wrap up, and this might be the most important thing in this whole episode. Your loved one does not need a perfect caregiver. All they need is you and the respite care person. They need the person who knows how they take their coffee, who remembers the name of their childhood best friend, who knows which TV show makes them laugh and which topic to gently steer around, who shows up imperfect and tired and doing their best, because the love underneath all of this is real. That is irreplaceable. No professional caregiver, no family caregiver, no one, no matter how skilled, can replicate that. Fam I mean, there are some family caregivers that don't know all of this information, so the ones who do are often the ones who end up performing the caregiving. But then again, you know, sometimes you're just brought into it and you end up learning how to care for this individual, and hopefully, it's a good relationship that you have with that person. That's the part that's always very difficult. So, on those days when the voice in your head says you're not doing enough, I want you to remember this. The guilt you feel is a sign of the love that you carry and the commitment that you carry. The worry is a sign of how much you care. At, as a human being, you are a caring, empathetic person. And the fact that you're still here, still listening, still trying to learn to do better, that tells me everything that I need to know about the kind of caregiver that you are. And I want you to recognize that as well. You are enough. You really are. And you need to believe that. All right, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with me today. These conversations really matter to me, and I hope that this one gave you something that you can carry with you. I am talking to you from my own personal experience, and I'm talking to you from my professional experience as well. So I wanted to help you. And so please give us your, reviews, comments, anything at all. Let us know how this is helping you, hopefully. If you're looking for more support, more resources, or just more practical guidance on caregiving, senior safety, and so much more, please visit us at seniorsafetyadvice.com. You don't have to figure all of this out alone. And if you're looking for local senior service specialists, aging in place specialists, elder care professionals, caregiver support resources in your area, head on over to aginginplacedirectory.com. There are wonderful people there who want to help. Please, of course, subscribe to the podcast or YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if today's episode spoke to you, then please share it with another caregiver who might need to hear it. Sometimes the most meaningful thing that we can do is to simply say, "Hey, I found something that helped me, and I thought of you." All right, everyone, I'm Esther Kane. I want to thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Take good care of yourself because remember, you matter too.